Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 51 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Sok. Chapter 51 is titled Reunited, the Engagement of Two Friends, a Devil Doc and a SEAL Recon. A surprisingly turn of event happened during my rigorous training at Field Medical Service School. During my fourth week of training, I was reunited with the very person that I held dearly in my heart and mind. It's the very person that I often thought about to get through the day during my entire training and all that I do. I was fortunate, and for a brief moment in my life, I was once again reunited with my dear Shinshin Nagami, whom I had missed so much then. It was any other ordinary morning for me. I awoke early before muster and such, and after preparing and readying myself for the day's task, in my creased-out pressed camouflage uniform, I walked my usual route to the mess hall for morning chow. I and a few other of my classmates took our usual daily route, out the middle entrance back doors of the barrack, across the massive ceremonial blacktop, between two marine barracks, and away from the large sandpit, and straight into the double doors of Camp Delmar galley for morning chow, frenzy, and feedings. We all walked by and away from the Marines who were training and handling each other roughly in the sandpit that morning. That's what the sandpit was for, hand-to-hand combat training and dealings. And it wasn't our cup of tea. After all, we were Devil Doc medical personnel who are not trained to go up to hand-to-hand combat with anyone. We walked by, not minding what they were doing. It was our routine and normal to us to avoid the show of brute force and such. And none of us wanted to get involved with what was going on there in the gladiators arena that these trained killing machines were putting themselves through in preparations of readiness and refining their physical skills. I didn't bother noticing him at first. He seemed much larger and more massive than we last met and saw each other last September, when we kissed our last goodbye at the airport right after basic. Shinshin had swollen up with ripped muscles and such, and he seemed a little different at first. I didn't bother saying hello or anything. I didn't notice or recognize him at first until I heard that voice. "Hey, Sok, what's up?" Shinshin calmly stated. From the sound of his voice, I came to a sudden halt. That voice seemed so familiar, as I thought. Could it be? Whispering as I thought to myself. From my halt erect stance, I made an about face and looked in his direction. It was his smirk smile that reminded me of him. I smiled and, losing control of myself, I hurled myself into the pit and embraced Shinshin's new rock-hard firm body. I was so happy. "What the fuck, Shinshin? What the fuck are you doing here?" I yelled with envy and joy for my beloved. Mind you, I didn't bother realizing where I was and what I was doing in the sandpit. Now, if you step in the sandpit, you are asking for a fight. That's what the warning signs all around it says. It just didn't care. Well, I just didn't care then. It skipped my mind. It was my dear Shinshin after all, and I'll go up against anyone or against him for the sake of being with him. I quickly looked back to my classmate, who were all in shock of my quick action into the pit, and told them that this is my very good friend who's been going through buds. I suggest that they go on ahead to get their morning chow without me. They all shook their head in agreement and walked off toward their destination. Shinshin too was lost for word for a moment. He wasn't paying attention to his dueling partner that was also in the sandpit. He quickly stopped the approaching guy who he was training and ordered him that the duel would continue later on. Quickly as Shinshin mentioned that, he dragged me out of the pit to stop further scrutiny from the other Marines who wanted to do battle with him or me? Shinshin had some pull then. He seemed to be the leader of the bunch of sort. So they complied and went on their way to do their own battle amongst themselves without the company of Shinshin or myself then, in that dueling sandpit. Hey Dara, I just wanted to get you out of there as soon as possible. You know, those Marine wanted to fight you, right? Shinshin giggled as he put his arm around my shoulder and walked me off toward the chow hall. What are you doing here, Shinshin? Aren't you at Bud's, going through some hard shit over there? I eagerly questioned. Yep. I'm still at Bud's. They sent me here to train some Marines in hand-to-hand combat. It's part of our volunteering program. You know, like the big brother of sort. You know, like the way you train those new recruits at basic with the flag drills. Shinshin proudly stated, reminding me of past events at basic. I'll be here for a week or so. It's my first morning here, right now. And what are you doing here, Dara? Shinshin calmly questioned back. Well, I'm going through this hard shit here. Field meds. Not as hard as yours, but required now of all male corpsmen to attend field medical service school, just in case we have to go into battle with the Marine up there in the front line. It's like a 7-week course or something, I think. With a slight frown on my lip, I happily, regrettably replied to Shinshin. Damn, Dara, you're gonna be that one of those devil dog, right? That's some crazy shit too. You know you can go force recon if you want. After all your training is done, and once you put on your green side fatigue, if you're tough enough, that is. Are you tough enough, Dara? Shinshin laughed with that remark and question. Once again, we were reunited and practically in arms as we walked each other to the mess hall to share the morning chow together. I was once again with my beloved dear Shinshin. I couldn't bring to mind to tell him that I had been thinking about him all this time, and wondering how he was doing the whole thing, and what he'd been up to since we're apart. But he knew. In his eyes and smile, he knew that I too had missed him, and as much as he had missed me. We both got in line and ordered our morning meals and found a table for two and talked and reminisced about our experience so far. I just had to tell him all about Misha and all the shit he had gone through with the drugs, the tattoos, and such. I'm sure Shinshin would get a shock out of it. Once we had our meals in hand, we found a single table for two and went about discussing our ordeals and wandering so far since we last saw each other and spent time with each other at basic. You know, Shinshin, Misha had been dishonorably discharged from the Navy. It happened a few months ago. He was going through some really hard shit with his girlfriend and such in San Diego. He went mad and lost it. He started doing drugs and getting tattoos and just pissing everyone off all around him. I miss him though. He was supposed to be here too if he hadn't or wasn't sent home. You know, I rambled on about Misha for Shinshin's amusement. Damn, that's some tough shit that happened to Misha. He was a good guy. I'm sure he'll be better off since he's going back to his home in Beverly Hills. You remember his family is loaded, right? I shook my head in agreement as Shinshin questioned. With all that money his family has, and his dad's this big shot lawyer and his mother's some fantastic ass doctor of sort, he'll do just fine back home, Dara. I'm sure of it. Shinshin was looking for and speaking expiring words to me to ease my worried thoughts. We rambled on during our morning meal, not minding the time if anyone was listening to our more than friendly chatter. Sitting there, face to face with Shinshin, I glared at his physique. He has gotten much larger, more built than before, more massive and more destructive, capable looking than ever before. He smiled his usual smirk that drives me crazy. Like a little schoolgirl, I was elated to be with him. This brings tingling sensation to my spine. We discussed and laughed about old times and such. What we were doing after all the rigorous training was over with. What our plans were after all the fiasco was done with. I told Shinshin that I had orders to go back to Balboa, stationed at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego. Well, I'll be assigned to some clinic to start practicing my trade unless I decide to go force recon as he had mentioned as I giggled over it. Shinshin told me that after Buds, he would be going to force recon with the 1st Marine Division in Okinawa, Japan. More training and mission shit, he said, as he mentioned. He didn't really get too specific or what he was doing or what kind of training that they had been putting him through. I guess he had to be hush-hush about all that shit he was going through during that time, and mainly because he was special forces and such and dealing with the SEAL unit. You know, secret shit. He had to keep a lot of things out. All I cared about was that he was doing well and that he was healthy. He seemed more destructive than before. He had a different way of presenting himself. He seemed more cold and callous. Not distant, but menacing in a sense. Seemed like he'll take anyone on at any moment, at a blink of an eye. He made sure not to reveal too much of his new self to me then. I guess he didn't want to scare me or confuse me of what I had remembered about him all this time. Shinshin was gentle that way, protecting me from the outside forces that may affect my way of seeing the real world. Shinshin was like my shield of armor. After all, he is my guardian angel. Time sure fly when you are enjoying your conversation with a misbeloved dear friend. Just like as soon as we sat down and talked, we had to depart each other for the day. I had to be on my way for my mandatory morning muster and classes, and he had to return to beating the shit out of the Marines that he was training in the sandpit whatnot. Together we walked with our half-eaten food and tray and disposed of them in a perishable food receptacle and set the trays atop the already piled stack to our right. Side by side we walked off and out of the mess hall. Once we both reached the dueling sandpit, we parted ways for the day. I escorted Shinshin back to his sandpit, and we attempted to shake hands saying our goodbye. Instead, unnoticeably quick, Shinshin gave me a heavy embrace. "Great to see you again, Dara," he happily stated aloud. I returned the embrace and told him, "Well," I asked him, "wanna meet up for morning chow again tomorrow?" He calmly agreed, and we parted ways for the rest of the day. Leaving Shinshin, I double-timed myself, running toward the already mustered line across the blacktop, and jumped in the back of the 4th platoon line while they marched off toward the FMSS schoolhouse, accompanied with our company A-Rock singing. While marching behind everyone else, I took several looks back toward Shinshin's sandpit direction and smiled. He was doing his thing, and he seemed happy. That's all I can ask for, as I told myself with a smirk that resembled that of Shinshin. That week that Shinshin was around Camp Delmar, I tried my hardest to see him as much as possible. I made sure to get through my quizzes and tests faster than usual from our schoolhouse, so I could leave the classroom and run out to look for Shinshin to hang out with him. I was acting like a little schoolgirl who has a sudden crush on her cute substitute teacher and can't wait to see him again. At times, he wasn't much around to keep me occupied. He was way too busy with his own thing then. He had Marines and Armed Forces personnel to train and mold into killing machine, and he had shit to do for the Marine Corps. After all, Shinshin wasn't there for me, or to see me. It was by sheer luck and coincidence he was at the same command as I was. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with my dear Shinshin then, no matter how small or how minute it may have been. I will cherish all these few precious moments as much as I can with him for the time being. I was only able to spend several morning chow with Shinshin, where we shoot the breeze and talk about old shit and future aspiration. One time during the entire week he was there, we were able to catch dinner together. Since Shinshin had a vehicle then, he decided to take me into town for some supper one evening after all our shit and tasks was done on our base. In our pressed out, increased camouflage fatigue and marine gears, we made our way toward a family restaurant that welcomed and enjoyed the company of Marines and military personnel at their fine dining establishment. Since it was on a Thursday night, there was no one waiting, and we were seated and had a nice romantic dining table right away. Once seated, we ordered from the menu their dinner special. That night we had the steak and lobster tail special with a side of mashed potato, gravy, and some steamed veggies. I ordered Coke, and Shinshin had water for his beverage. I giggled at his choice of beverage, and he mentioned that he needed to be off caffeine until Buds was through. It was part of the command's recommendations while going through Buds. No caffeine, just like at boot camp. Lots of carb though. That's all they want you to eat, and only drink water, Shinshin had mimicked one of his instructors. It was nice that evening, being able to share a warm, hearty dinner meal with my dear friend Shinshin that night. If only people saw us there together, they would have thought that we were a couple of some sort. A gay couple to be exact. It was just how friendly we were together, to each other. We laughed and we all ate together that night. We were talking shit about this and that, and just bullshitting the breeze as we munch and devour our meals together during that night, that nice cool evening. And of course, the table had some nice freshly cut flowers and a lit candle setting in the middle of it, with some soft elevator music playing in the background, making and giving it a sense of and scene of romanticism. Who would have think? Who wouldn't have think that we were a gay couple? We were just that good together. We fit each other well. Shinshin and I were like hands and glove. Mind you, we weren't the only couple in the refined establishment then. There were several other couples in the joint enjoying their meals and company together, except the majority of them were older and more senior couples. We were like the children in our last teens. We were like the children in our late teens, but we still made a handsome couple, nonetheless. As we ate and discussed whatnot, I told Shinshin, you know Shinshin, tomorrow morning, the entire battalion is going on this 8-mile hump, and we will spend like a week out in the field, camping, playing some war games, and doing some desert shit out there, and this is probably going to be the last time I'll see you, right? He laughed at my statement and told me not to worry. It's nothing, Dara. I'm sure you'll do fine. You're the shit after all, remember? You're the shit. You're the pocket Hercules that everyone adored and admired at basic. And you're tougher than those big bastards in your company. I've seen you, Dara. And I know you, Dara. And don't worry about us. If fate has its way, well, we'll run into each other again. Just like this week, right? With his warm, calm smirk, he commented to reassure me of my stress and worries of what was to become of us. Shinshin was reassuring that way. He knew how to get to me, and he knew how to put me at ease. After about an hour or so at the restaurant, and after finishing our meals, we paid for our delicious supper and decided to walk about the nightly lit little town to burn off some of the many calories we had just consumed. Being mindful to tell the manager of the restaurant, Shinshin and I asked if we could leave his vehicle parked in their parking lot. The staff smilingly agreed. Leaving his vehicle at the restaurant's parking lot, we marched on and about the town. Oceanside was pretty much bustling at night time, more so than during the day. Jarheads and townspeople were everywhere, getting into the nightlife and just walking about during the spring warm breeze. All along the beaches and shore, several groups of people burnt beach bonfires and sat around, laughing, eating, and enjoying each other's company. As Shinshin and I walked, we talked and pointed at objects and people. There were your usual city nightlife, with several ladies of the night and prostitute whatnot. Some dudes too asking if you were up for some good time whatnot, if we wanted their company for the night. In sync, we both stated, "Not tonight, miss or mister," as we softly giggled and laughed while continuing on with our walks in the nice, cozy ocean town. All about town that night, people were dining out and night gazing as they walked up and down the main street of the marine town. Shinshin and I walked about for a good several hours, shitting the breeze and just enjoying each other's companionship. I was feeling really good more than usual. I hadn't felt like this in a long time, and it was Shinshin who was making me feel this way. We decided to walk about the sand. We made stops at several bonfires and greeted the people there. All were friendly and welcoming. We walked by and the roving in and out shore while the cool spring breeze cooled our ears and side of the face that were facing the beachfront. Seemed that we were more than just friends that night as we saw each other. After a good long walk about town and beach, and with some soft moist sweat dripping from the collars of our camouflage blouse, and since it was getting late and past our designated turn down, we decided it was time to go back to our base and barracks and turn in for the night. Shinshin drove us back to our command slowly in his Honda Accord. Slowly than the normal posted speed limit for that stretch of the road. We made small talk as we drove on. I told Shinshin that I would miss him and hoped that fate would bring us back together again in the long run. He laughed and snickered at my gay statement, but in his laughter and the small gleam in his eye, I knew that he would miss me too. I sensed he was feeling and probably had the same worries or concern that I was having about us and about what was to become of us. After passing through and with the permission of the command's nightly sentry at Camp Pendleton front gate entrance, we made our last few miles to Camp Delmar quietly and just inhaling each other's essence and aroma. Shit in the breeze in the car. Shinshin dropped me off at my barrack. With some hesitation and insecurity, I exited his vehicle. I softly slammed his passenger door shut and walked toward the driver's side of his vehicle. Quickly as I was making my way toward him, Shinshin decided to exit his vehicle too. With his driver's side door ajar, he walked toward my direction with our eyes in contact, and in phantom-like fashion, we embraced each other warmly that night under the shroud of shadows from my barrack building. Manly hugs and embrace, of course, as we warmly caressed each other there under the watchful eyes of God and his minion. Then we said our goodbyes. We said what we needed to say, giving each other warm wishes and sending off each other success and good health. I said goodbye to my dear beloved Shinshin that night, for the last time that night, and only wishful and hopeful that we would run into each other once again someday in the future. Hopefully soon, as I pondered about in my head. That was the last time I saw Shinshin then. Those few days and shared moment with him gave me the drive and endurance to go on and finish with that rigorous training and hectic lifestyle of field medical service school. His thoughts and warm word carried with me through my aches and pain with all the humps and bullshit that I was putting up with while going through the rest of the 7 weeks ordeal at Camp Delmar and Camp Pendleton. Happy and joyful with the moments given to me by the hands of fate and shared experience with Shinshin, I made like a bandit through the rest of field medical service school. Anytime I was put in pain or anguish, all I had to do was think about Shinshin and all that shit he was going through with Buds, and how he had better himself through complexity and adversities. Memories of him kept me going and kept me sane while I was crashing and burning myself like a ball of fire into the depth of hell. Shinshin was my dear friend. He was my guardian angel and guiding light, and he still is to this day. His memories and experience live in me. That is why I gladly share with you, the readers of my beloved Shinshin Nagami. Our FMSS class graduated that spring of 1996. And off I went to hang out with mom and my family for a week or so before reporting to my new command at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego. Thank you for listening. This is the end of Chapter 51. Be on the lookout for Chapter 52, titled Reporting for Duty. First Command, Naval Medical Center, San Diego. Hematology, Oncology, Corpsman. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.